All right, looks like we're ready to roll. Thanks very much to our viewers for tuning in today for another exciting episode of Unfiltered with Ches McFarlane. I'm your co-host Wesley, and excited for another great discussion on the show today. I'm calling in from a beautiful sunny day here in Halifax. How's the weather where you are, Chebs?
The weather is pretty good down here. We had little flurries for a little bit, but everything is smoothing it out, and we're just looking at it as it's going to unfold. But it was a nice day. The sun was up and bright.
Yeah, just a good old Nova Scotia, beautiful winter day. Hope everyone's out there, going out for some walks, getting some fresh air, getting in touch with family, doing some chores that need tending to, or just doing some good old relaxing restoration before we get back to the week. So once again, happy to meet with our viewers again for another episode. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks in advance for sharing the episode on your social media and with your friends, organizing a watch party and contributing to the discussion yourself by posting questions or comments in the comments section. And yeah, we have a couple great segments to share with you today, starting off with a little kind of mini community vibes segment coming from the brainchild, Chebs McFarlane himself. What's going on in your life, Chebs?
Oh yeah, Wes. Thank you to all of our viewers for joining. We're gonna have a great show. As far as community vibes, community is concerned, just because we're here in Nova Scotia, we know that our government is changing hands, sort of a generational change, as all the political pundits or people who speak in those things have said. We have a new incoming premier by the name of Ian Rankin. He's got a vision for Nova Scotia, 38 years of age. So it'll be interesting to see how this generational change unfolds in a province that's known for, having a lot of people who are of the upper echelons in terms of the age. Um, we also have, a lot of things going on around the world. I'll start with let me talk about a little bit about Cameroon and Bazonia. Most folks who know me know of my involvement with sort of the crisis that's going on there and with the peace process that is being contemplated. So there's a lot of work in that regard, and I would love to really engage our viewers in the next few episodes, not just the ones coming up, but subsequently on really digging deep and exploring the issues in Cameroon and some of the work that is being done to bring people together to find solutions to this problem. It's been referred to as Africa's forgotten war or conflict because nobody really talks about it, but it's right out there, and there's a genocide unfolding. In respect to just again what's going on, community vibes around. It's the end of Black History Month or Black Heritage Month or African Heritage Month, whatever you choose to call it. We're rounding that up, and there's been a lot of buzz around many quarters this month on all kinds of things that are happening, thanks to a lot of the activism that happened over the summer months with respect to George Floyd. It seems as if a lot of the lip service that were given with regards to commitments to things that involve people of African descent, a lot of organizations, communities, even just friends, acquaintances, put their monies where their mouths were and try to do something proactive and positive in that light. There is still a lot to be done, so much more, but it's um, it's positive to see that a lot of people were engaged this month and trying to do something for good. So we have to point to that. That's it for me, and maybe we'll talk about some other things at tail end of the show.
Great. Yeah, there's some hefty subjects for us to dig into in future episodes. Really interested in talking about what you said is being called Africa's Forgotten War, because we never forget anything here on Unfiltered. We're always digging into the issues as they're taking place in real time. So I think that's a worthwhile discussion. And fun fact with regard to the Premier of Nova Scotia, it was actually the past Premier in recent years, Rodney MacDonald of the Progressive Conservative Party, who is the youngest Premier to have ever received the title at 34 years of age, actually.
Wow.
So it will be interesting to see how the generational change along with the ideological difference of the Liberal Party plays out to an approach of a brighter future for Nova Scotia and Nova Scotians. And so yeah, we should maybe invite Ian on the show for a future episode, see what he thinks about that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, today, Chebs, we are definitely in for a treat. Our viewers are as well. Today, we can welcome her onto our virtual stage here. We'll be doing a interview with a dear friend of mine, Natasha Budovitch, who I met before. We both ascended to our respective careers, and we became good friends back then, and continue to be so today. I was able to continue to talk with Natasha as she studied fashion communications at Ryerson University and then graduated to take on some positions in her field. We continue to stay in touch, and I've seen Natasha gain over 10 years of experience in fashion and retail marketing in the fashion industry. And Natasha has helped to bring beauty to the world as both a modeling agent and an art director with some of Canada's top retailers and image makers, including Suzy Shear, Sears Catalog, Walmart, and St. Joseph's Communication. You can see some examples of Natasha Budovitch's impressive work on natashabud.format.com. And but we can hear from Natasha herself. It's great that you could join us today, Natasha. How are things on this fine day for you?
Oh, well, thanks for having me. Definitely takes, different spin from my spicy laundry and grocery routine of the Sunday. So it's very exciting to get to share some of my world with you.
Nice, you're working hard on many fronts. So tell us and tell our viewers, what's a regular workday in the life of an art director?
So right now I work for a company called St. Joseph's Communications. They are a full content agency where they specialize in creating, publishing, and printing marketing materials. So they will create it for you, they will print it for you, they will distribute it for you, pretty much kind of one-stop shop. And it definitely has a lot of different, it's grown. I used to work for them actually 7 years ago. So I was able to come back, and they just keep growing. They just bought, all of the Rogers Publishing magazines that were there before. So there's, in one studio, you'll definitely see like some amazing editorial on like bacon. You'll just smell it in the halls, and then, you'll see car ads happening, and you'll see, just so much going on because of all of those different sectors kind of in one building. So for me, my day always starts with my research. I get in, I check all my blogs just to make sure that I'm on top of my trend game. So, I know what's going on in my world, in the rest of the world. I always like to play on popular culture, whether it's with references on how the photo should look or how I communicate with the models. So my research is kind of where I start. And then I'll kind of check to see if I have any feedback from any of our clients that's going to affect my day. I then will kind of check out my schedule, and then I'll go to the studio. So in the studio, I will probably have 5 to 6 off-figure photographers going at one time, along with a fashion set. So I'll go around to all of my different photographers, see what their setup is. They'll ask questions about lighting. I'll get them kind of where they need to be before I walk away. And those off-figs can have anything from like a kiddie pool to a toaster to a pile of sweaters to a ham. So I pretty much go through those, and then I will check on my fashion set, tell them the hair and makeup that I want for that day. I'll probably spend the majority of my day there because that's where the most of my communication happens. You can't really, communicate with a toaster. Like the toaster's gonna photograph the same way whether you tell them to or not. So it's definitely there with the models where I'll probably spend most of my day. That will probably be like an 8 to 10 photo day just in there. And then everybody else is probably doing about 8 to 10 shots on their own. After I've gotten that fashion set to where I need it to be, I'll do another little walk around, approve any of the shots. Then I will take a look at the approved ones, and then I'll make my annotations and send them off to retouching. We have a pretty 24-hour a day production thing going. So when I send it off, it'll send off overnight and then usually come back like the next day. And then I'll answer my emails and do any other research or prep for the next day.
Wow, that sounds like a really multifaceted day, full of like some technical terms were packed in there, which is the language of fashion. You mentioned something I think it was off figure.
Off figure. I pretty much deal with house and home, off fig, pretty much anything hardline is pretty much anything that's not a soft good. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, I was looking at your website earlier at the categories, and I saw off figure, and
Off figure.
I didn't know what that meant. It looked to be like
anything that's not on a human.
It's not a human, but you used to work with humans and things that are on humans as a modeling agent. And I was wondering, what did you learn about the fashion industry and the people that are in it while you were working as a modeling agent?
As an agent, what did I learn about the fashion industry? Well, first of all, an agent has a lot of different hats. They manage their own talent. They manage other people's talent. They're finding new talent. They are selling their talent. And then they're also managing their clients. So it's a fine dance of being everybody's friend, their family, their manager, their bank, and their boss all at the kind of the same time. And I also kind of feel like bringing this closer to Canada may keep my time better, or else I'll just be here all day. In the Canadian industry alone, you really do learn where the money is coming from. You learn a lot about our own retailers and what their budgets are, who's making money, who's losing money, and what's kind of important to them as a brand. Just from a casting, you can really kind of see where their budgets have started, like where they were like 2 months ago versus where they are now. What trends are they responding to? What customers they're trying to reach? So it kind of plays down the road. And even when I'm not in that space anymore, it's like when I see a retailer kind of close, a Canadian retailer close, I can kind of look back in my head and look through those things and see kind of where they were hitting wrong, or like, it's never really a surprise to me given the fact that I've seen that side. A lot of companies will bring in models on an LMIA visa, which is a temporary foreign worker visa. So they need to bring in these American models, and they do that because of their image. And image is something that is compiled of their international reputation. It's who they've worked for before. It's their following, everything that makes that model, a 360 it thing. So you're bringing in these models for this image just to compete with the American ones. So it's so that the consumer, when they're walking through a mall, can look at an H&M store and look at a Canadian retailer and see the same level of quality in that advertising. Whereas does the regular customer look at that ad and say, oh my God, that girl did Fendi, Gucci, this, or is that shirt gonna look good on me? And that was always kind of like this weird thing that I was always kind of like toying with when people would say like, oh, that model's not going to do that because it's not good for her image. It's like, well, it's really good for this company in Canada. And does a regular person know that? Do they really care? It was always kind of this thing that was like this constant battle with me kind of a little bit. So like, it's something that like, it's this subliminal kind of thing that we're telling someone is this person's image is so great. Whereas like, who else knows? So it's like all these agents and all these companies that are like working together to put out this product for you to go, oh, that image is what I want to be, versus like, does that shirt look good on me? So it's kind of this weird thing.
Yeah.
What I learned like on a global scale more so is that I personally wanted to make, the industry a safe and positive, happy place for everybody. but I'm just like this like little tip of this ginormous iceberg. So like the reason I kind of got into the fashion industry in the first place was so that I could make a positive image for the next generation. But I kind of quickly realized that the softer I am as a manager, it's not going to help you, because if I think your body is in amazing shape for Canada, if your measurements are a certain way, I can hype you up and get you over to Milan. But Milan will, their standards might be a little bit different, and they will send you back, or you will sit in that market and you won't make money and you will acquire debt. So it doesn't really help them for me to do that. So that was, it's kind of different that, not everybody is a Kendall or a Gigi, whereas those, industry standards don't apply to them. But for the most case, models come from, little tiny villages and anywhere in the middle of Europe, middle of Peru. So most people are not on the same wallet scale as those girls. So like those, measurements do apply to them. So it was, can I make a huge difference at that point? It was kind of like, not really. So I tried, to be as like squishy and sugar coated as I could. But again, it was like a super hard world out there. And I think that was a real big learning curve.
Right. And it's important to be able to liaise between the two, the human compassion, but then the realities of the industry. And earlier you mentioned researching trends, which really determine, it seems, especially in your industry, what people view as important or up and coming. And so I was wondering how you research those trends, and in what ways a modeling agent or an art director can influence those trends.
For instance, for example, ever since social media started and the amateur became the professional, it's like the professional world now has to dumb itself down to look amateur. Weird. And I know it's weird. It's like, we're trying to make our shoot look like something that was done on a camera in no lighting and natural lighting in someone's bedroom. So it's like that weird, just repeat it. I like start to go on a tangent and I like.
I mean, it has this weird kind of like post-professionalism feel to it, where
yes.
something has to look natural for it to sell.
Exactly. And like that's been really hard to obtain, because our machines and our machinery is so much more advanced, and like
and that's something
it's hard.
It's hard to keep up with. It has impacts on people's lives, like you were mentioning, and is ever changing. And thinking about how things continue to develop in the fashion industry, I'm wondering how you maybe have seen ideas of beauty change over time.
It's probably been my favorite part of my entire experience. Because I used to intern at this agency in university, so years before I even started working there. And when I first started working there, blonde, blue-eyed was king. That American volleyball player, that was it. That's what everybody wanted. And ethnic was just anybody with brown hair. So these certain looks that used to be classified as exotic or special is now on everybody's casting deck. So it's very cool to see that completely flip over. Like I always used to say, like, oh, I love this girl, but somebody else would say, like, oh, they're very special. It's like, it's freckles, it's not that special. So this flawless world has now, is looking for the flaws and calling them beautiful and exciting. Like now you'll see models with 2 colored eyes, or, some sort of like a port wine stain is now special and rare and cool and different, whereas like that wouldn't have been something that would be acceptable before. So I think that's really exciting. I feel like if you were 5'9", that was, everybody had to be 5'9" and up. If you were a guy, it was 6 foot, and that was kind of the rule. And there's 6 people at that booking table, so even if you love somebody, it takes a village. So everybody kind of does their part in selling this person. So if you were to take a 5'6" that had a really amazing face, and you're going to spend all your time on someone that's going to have maybe 1 shopper's ad, you're going to build that person just for those two things. Whereas now there's lots of 5'6"ers, there's 5'7"ers that is kind of being broken down more and more every day. Body size is something that, you know, I'm so excited to see change, because all the girls that like you had to kind of push and poke and prod are now fine. And that's something that's accepted. And more clients are asking for real bodies and real, you know, real hair and real makeup. And when you would have to put together a family, you would have to put together, like you would piece together these like beautiful people that you thought went together, and you would pass over this like baby to like this like dude that, you know, it's probably also, you know, 25, he's holding it like a football. So he doesn't know, they're not the right ages. They're, you know, 4, they've never met this baby in their life, and you're trying to capture this like real moment. So that's how it used to be. And now it's all about the real families and the real moments. So that is something that's very cool. And I really do think, you know, COVID has kind of even pushed us more to have to do that, because you just you can't bring people in, and you can't have people that are not in the same social bubble interacting. So I think it's going to be hard to move back to that. I think it's kind of always going to be that way. But it is cool to see what was beautiful before is now switching. And I think you're just going to see more and more of that, especially with the gender fluidity as well.
Yeah, it seems like industry standards are being shaped in a lot of progressive, you know, breakthroughs in the broader society, and that's great to see that reflected in, what has traditionally been kind of an industry that is supposed to be superficial or particular forms of beauty. And so a lot of what you suggest, a lot of what you're saying suggests that there's this kind of opening up, you know, to real bodies, to different complexions. But I am wondering, are there still some looks that are out of bounds or taboo and can't hope to be represented within the world of fashion?
I don't think so anymore. And there's so many like anti-agencies now like popping up that, and just seeing from like what my clients look for, the taboo now is like almost to be perfect, which is, it's kind of nice. Like it is really nice to be a part of that movement. And it's nice to kind of see that change and then push it to like happen. There's one thing when like people say like, oh, I want a real person, and then like you show them 5 real people, and then you show them the model, and they pick the model. So it's like you're almost there. It's going to take a really long time. It's also hard because we're creatures of habit in a way. Like we're always going to want to see a fantasy, and that is part of the reason why Victoria's Secret is not going to be around for very long. Well, they've changed their tune, but it was, you know, people do want to see a fantasy. They do want to, you know, show me something I can't be. But I do think the next generation has completely changed that way of thinking.
Great.
So it's here to stay. It will just get better. I really don't think anything's out of bounds. Like I've now seen everything. I've now seen albinos. I've seen, you know, different colored eyes. You've seen things that we're seeing as like physical disabilities is now not. Like we do, like whenever we do our like Christmas book and we have like the kids stuff, you always put a kid, like a Down syndrome kid, you always put a kid in a wheelchair. So it's like all these things are now acceptable, and you're not just showing, people don't want to see that fantasy anymore. They want to see that reflection of themselves more and more every day.
That's great, to see that representation increase in the fashion industry. And I was wondering, because you mentioned gender fluidity and also bodies, and I was wondering if you could make a comment on how representation of race has changed over time.
Race over time, I just feel like with the majority of mixed and just for example, kind of going back, the age of where you saw single race couples, two white people in an ad to show family is so over. Nobody does it anymore. So if you can think of, everybody's growing up now watching biracial couples in ads and TV and everywhere, you can only imagine that like the reflect that has on beauty. So it's like everything that was once a minority, I think, is just now kind of switched on its head. And it's like that blonde, blue-eyed king is definitely like, it's very cool to see it switch. But you do, like, biracial is definitely like, everybody wants to be racially ambiguous. Everybody wants to see something that they can relate to. So when you're doing one ad, you want to apply to as many people as you can now. And I think
Wow.
that
must be really exciting to not only be part of an industry that is actively changing right now, but becoming more representative and respectful of the actual diversity that is in our world and makes our world beautiful. So that's great. You mentioned at one point what you feel the impact of social media has been. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that.
it's done so much. It's done so much.
Good things or bad things?
Bad things.
Bad things?
Bad things, good things, but bad things, but good things. First off, like, companies used to shoot 4 to 6 times a year to change their seasonal marketing, which would have been your in-store signage, your ads in a magazine, your billboards, your out of house. Those shoots would have had like a 5-figure budget. So you would have been able to pretty much do whatever you wanted to do. That compared to the now 2.5 posts a week that you need to now post on every platform that you're using, instead of those 4 to 5 shoots a year, you're having, hundreds of shoots a year. So it's that same budget that's being stretched over so many more different shoots. You need monthly content, weekly content, daily content. So before, you really only did a winter, summer, spring, fall. That was it. So of course it's natural for it to look like the budgets are getting smaller, but even though it's the same amount of money, it's still smaller. Not to mention the amount of content creators that are undercutting everybody, and that's kind of an overdrive. Everybody wants to get a deal on the amount of volume that has to happen. Not, as I was saying earlier, the amateurs now become the professionals. So you're not just competing with other studios that are doing things cheaper. You're competing with the kid in Texas that you can send a garment to that will shoot it for free for $3,000 or $300,000. $3,000 is not even anything anymore. It's like $300,000 is what you need to make a difference. But with all that free content, how do you justify that 5-figure shoot you used to do? The internet is forever. I don't really care what anybody wants to say. Once something is posted pretty much online, the usage of it doesn't matter. And usage was a term of, it was almost a currency. It still is a currency, but it's going to lose over, it's going to dissolve. I just know it. So as a model, you would get paid for your day, and you would get paid also on top of that for where your face was shown, how many times it was shown, where it was shown. So if it was like 5 billboards in Montreal, 3 billboards in Florida, or if it was in Florida, if it was in Hong Kong, depending on how many territories, you would get paid on top of that. So that's, when it's internet, it's everywhere. So you can't control those things as long as they used to be able to. If it was like, oh, you're only going to be seen for 6 months, you can't guarantee that anymore. So the model only doesn't make money on that. The photographer, the hair and makeup artists, the agents make money off of that. It's like having a condo. You work once and you have this thing just making this passive income for you. So that now from social media does not exist. It's becoming extinct. A lot of agents still like push on it, and it's still a thing for the older generation of producers, but by the time I'm out of this industry, not even, I would say like in like next 5 years, it's not a thing. It's, you can't put a time limit on it. And that's a whole section of revenue that people just won't have. And again, like I was so lucky to be brought into this industry at a time where I was flown to sunny destinations to meet models and see models that I would only dream of. Like Kate Bach was my first like billboard. So like, that was something that, it's an experience that I don't think a lot of people will have anymore. It's those images that used to take a team of people, a like location scout, producers, is now being pushed out of the way from a 17-year-old in Texas. right? So I really do think that those glory years of going on location and having those big scale shoots are over. And a lot of people that like really needed that, it's gone. And that's all social media. Social media has done that all on its own.
Yeah, the impact of technology can't be overstated. So that is really interesting. And just to make sure that I am wrapping my head around these technical terms that kind of that characterize the industry that you are a professional in. Usage. So the usage of an image would be determined at the time of a shot, or would the model receive those as royalties after the fact?
It is usually discussed with the agent prior to the shoot. So it's like, okay, we're going to use you for an 8-hour day, and then we're going to put your face on national. So it'll be all over Canada. It will be out of house. It'll be there for 6 months only. And we're also going to put it in a magazine, and we're going to put it in a newspaper. And you would get a different rate for all of those things. So if you're getting paid $5,000 for a day, you're going to make like maybe 30,000 on that usage. So also, let's just say 6 months from now, and you've already agreed to this up front, 6 months from now, when that company kind of like wants to use it again, and this happens a lot with like especially car ads, they'll do like a whole buyout for a year, and those things usually get used like maybe 2 years, 3 years. So after your usage is done, you'll either have a renegotiation period or you'll just get another full cycle on it. So if something was used, especially like a brochure for sandals, for instance, those things stick around for a really, really long time usually. So like the residuals on that just keep going, and agents will get like a 30% cut of that. The hair and makeup or the stylist will also get, the photographer will get. So that usage is like there.
And so then the usage is not, it's not possible to determine that in the same way when we're on social media or otherwise online. And so basing payment on usage isn't possible anymore.
They still try, but 3 months, if something goes online, it's there forever. You can't just like, find all those little things and pull them off. Like the control of having something up for 3 months, 5 months. I can still Google, Gucci campaign 2007 if I want to. Right. So like that time period, how can you control that? You can't control that. You can't control if someone's gonna, if some blog out there is gonna repost something. Whereas before you could just take all the magazines off the shelf. You can just take the poster down. You can just, erase it from history. And what you would do as a model 10 years ago, let's just say you were doing a student photo shoot, and they, put you in a bed of flowers surrounded by milk, and you had cat ears on your head. Like, it was done. It was over. You got paid like maybe $120 for it. But now it's going to be online. That's going to haunt you forever. So people are very now picky and choosy about what they do. So in the long run, things are probably going to cost quite a lot more to make up for that usage and that kind of residual time that things are around for, because it's very, very important to clients of, what have they done before? If you've done, guess the likelihood of you, racking up to a different level of like Fendi is like quite different. But before, most people would just forget that you did guess. But now stuff is just always constantly there. So usage will die.
Yeah.
And it's hard because like the older agents, like they hold on to this, and they, it's hard to get them to think otherwise. And it is hard to like change the product line of it. So now people are having to, instead make other products on their models' time and services. So like, instead of all of those things, it's like, well, they'll do like, some sort of a social media package also, or, they'll rep you in different ways. There's also like cross marketing of like, it's not just one model, it's like 5 of their friends. So it pops up on like all of their other feeds, but it's also competing with the Instagram model, which is very different from like the Bella Hadids, who are models that have Instagram. It's very different from like the Instagram model. It's like, but to most people, to like some 13-year-old that's just freaking scrolling through their thing, it's not. It's the same.
Yeah, you got to adapt. And I guess that would be a good time for us to pitch our social media. Check us out on Instagram, Unfiltered with Chubbs McFarland. And Natasha, I mentioned your website earlier, but perhaps you could pitch whatever way you'd like our viewers to
You can
view.
do NatashaBudovitch.com.
Pardon?
NatashaBudovitch.com will take you to the same place, and my Instagram is Natasha Sari with an underscore, but I can put that on your whatever if you need.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we'll post that with the YouTube video. And talking about other ways that technological development has impacted the industry, are there any other examples of this on top of mind for you?
There, due to the amount of volume that everybody has to now, do. For my probably biggest volume day as a human, 20 shots a day can happen. 20 shots on like an e-com set. Some that, like, if you push yourself and don't have a lunch break, you could probably do about 30, but like 20, and that's not an environment. That's not like, any editorial thought. That's just like white background and like person, and like, that's it. Boom, boom, boom. Whereas like now there are these machines that do them for you. And you really don't need a whole team. You really just need, it's literally a green screen. It literally has a mannequin that's green screen. And there is somebody there to put the clothes on the body. And that thing can go through probably about 67 shots a day, minimum.
Wow.
So it's and they have mannequins that, there's kids, there's plus, there's men, there's women's. So they do this shoot on this mannequin. You can add in, a fan to give it like a blowing effect to the clothes. And then once they pick the model that goes in it, to any regular person, they would have thought that was like a shoot with people and everything. It's very good, but it's very scary because, I'll walk by that room at night sometimes and this mannequin is just giving me this like death stare, this naked mannequin. It's like, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
Because it's literally taking out, you don't have to be a photographer to use it. You don't even have to be a stylist to use it. Art directors don't have to be there. Model doesn't have to be there. Hair and makeup doesn't have to be there. So that's 5 people and days of their work that won't exist because a machine can do it for us.
That is pretty scary.
That's mainly because, fast fashion was once the word, and now I think it's instant fashion. The fact that you're going to be able to, shoot that many things is due to the volume that's needed now. And the overturn, it's going to be instant fashion. You're going to be able to print things at home and wear them in 2 seconds.
Right. Yeah. And that must present, like you were saying, both, some opportunities as well as some concerns for how the industry works. But yeah, that's just the impact of change, changing tastes, changing technology. And then we have also unexpected events such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And I was wondering how you felt that's impacted the fashion industry, or how the fashion industry has impacted the COVID-19 pandemic and responses to it. Examples being people with stylized masks.
Personally, yelling at a model on set through a mask is so painful. I never really realized how much I speak with my face until, it's kind of like an active drama class, if you will. Like, I pretty much act it out and then they do it. So it's very hard to express what I need to get from them when, this is covered up. Mm-hmm. I think the impact on the industry, I'm going to stay close to home again. It's very easy to go to a US retailer online, get what you need. Their return policies are usually way better than ours. It's going to an Amazon. It's just, we're not able to support our own retailers the brick and mortar way that, we need to. And like, I'm in Toronto. I didn't say that originally, but I am. And we're still pretty much in the dark where you guys are pretty free. So it's still very much a curbside lockdown situation. But you just don't get that support that you need, curbside or not. Mm-hmm. I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do, but I've also lost a job, got a new job, lost another job, and got another job within this entire process in this last year and a half, working for a client that I loved at a studio that I loved. And I'm now very lucky that I do work at a studio that I also love, and also like working for a client that I love, but I have had to pivot. I did fashion all day, every day. And now I've had to pivot and do house and home and stuff that like wasn't really in my wheelhouse. During that time, I've also had to, make logos for prison security. So like I really had to like Swiss Army knife myself. And I think it's really kind of made us all think that you can't just, have one. Fashion's not everything. Fashion is a disposable income luxury. I think COVID has all taught us to live with less, and what's really important to us. So people just aren't, going out and getting things that they don't need. We're wearing things that, half the people, like, you don't know what I'm wearing on my body right now. So, sweatpants.
Comfort is important, and we should take advantage of that. I think
comfort is important, and I think most people they're just living with a lot less. And I think the luxury market's going to take a lot more to come back. I don't really know what's being done with all the lipstick out there. I think beauty's having a really hard time. There's studios that, I work for a studio. Luckily, the client I'm working for is an essential service, but that's not the case for everybody. There's hair and makeup, there's photographers, there's photo assistants, there's caterers, there's so many people are not working. So it's definitely a time that we've all had to switch gears and change the way we think about what we do. And again, there was a minute that I was like, I'm going to have to, totally shift my gears and maybe, go work at a firm. I don't know. Like I was just going through so many things. Masks, I have to wear one every day. Most of us have to wear one every day. I think the stylization of it is, we are covering up a part of our face that is so personal, and it tells the world who we are. So of course we're going to want to make it look pretty. Of course we're going to want it to say, what our mouths can't. So I think that's only a natural progression that would have happened. I think it's given brands and companies a platform to pivot on and allow them to create something that we need versus, creating things that we don't need right now. I do think in places like Nova Scotia, like my mom's going out without masks on all the time. But I do think in metropolitan places like Toronto, in subways, in malls, in grocery stores, like I think it's going to be around for a very long time. I really don't think it's just going to go from, one day we're doing it, the next day we're not. I haven't had a single cold this year. I've been so more healthy than I've ever been in my life. So I think, Asia's been doing this a really long time. I just think it's going to be part of our everyday, and it's going to be something that we wear. So why not make it look nice?
Yeah, totally. I can get on board with that. And it's yet to be seen what the lasting impacts will be. And it is important to really speak to how fortunate Chebs and I are being in Nova Scotia, and really I hope that things get better where you are as well, Natasha. I also want to speak to your honesty, like you said, about working from home. You never really know what people are wearing off the screen, and
at least match.
Yeah, well, they match, and so we style ourselves.
They match.
But, regardless of being on the screen, Chebs and I always try to dress up a little bit for the episodes. And I was wondering, to the best of your abilities, using this lens that we have to view each other through right now, if you would be able to give Chebs and I some feedback on our outfits today.
Cheb's doing great. You need some color.
Can we get a full body? Can we get a full body look, Chebs?
Chebs is doing good. Unless you got sweatpants or PJs down there.
Yeah,
but I think the blazer, I really like your background. I was trying to do that earlier, but it wouldn't work out for me. I do, if I'm not on set, I am at home. So I do go on a lot of Zooms. And I do really try to do as much color or texture as I can. Because when you do have dark, like you do right now, it's just like dark and floating head. Whereas like if you had, a different color layer, you get that, dimensional outfit.
Yeah.
Natasha is making me smile from molar to molar here.
There's a contrast.
I like that.
What is brown and navy? Just fine, but
This was purple. This is mixtures of purple. And I actually, in preparation for the episode today, remembered a specific conversation that we had when we met up at Turks on the waterfront. And I was wearing my white pinstripe fancy shirt. That was my good shirt. Black with white pinstripes. And I wore a gray t-shirt underneath it. And you gave me feedback saying, that's good you wore gray under it because it doesn't distract the eye. And it allows you to focus on the black with the pinstripes, stuff like that. So I always wore gray underneath my black shirts.
I was expecting suspenders, so I thought you dressed up.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I left a few weeks ago. Yeah, point taken. But maybe I'll just get some feedback on my full outfit because I put some thought into it today. We'll see the best that we can.
You put thought into your pants when I wouldn't see it.
Is that Lincoln?
Look at my pants. I guess we only have so much technology here. Okay, yeah, we're not set up for this on set, but
He's
it's
not
just
putting on
sort of pink,
pajamas, huh?
purples, and navy blues.
Well, more color, more levels.
And how about you, Chubbs? How do you put together a good outfit?
Well, I usually sleep and dream about it before I wear it. I usually, there's some part of my dreams that is always about what I'm gonna wear. So it's like, okay, because when I go into the shower and get out, I just want to get it on. I don't want to look through to determine it. So, like I'm wearing these pants. You can see here.
Nice.
It's
Maroon. They look velvet.
It's a maroon
Corduroy.
pants. So I'm not wearing pajamas.
But like people have I've had to, buy 5 matching sweat home outfits to accommodate, and I haven't really bought anything new for outside because this is, people are investing more in their homeware and they want to be comfortable while they do it. So
Right. Let me ask you this. I've been thinking a lot about getting a good number of house coats for these shows because, I figure, if you're going to be changing clothes for the show, you might as well be changing house coats. So where's a good place that I can look?
I feel like the Bay always has good house coats.
A good variety. Okay.
Good terry towel one,
Yeah, I recently bought a new robe from Simon's because I would go to the Nordic Spa a fair amount when I was in Ottawa, and you'd have to rent the robe. And these robes
that's horrible.
are white and linen and really nice and comfortable. And after buying my robe at Simon's to save a bit of money, and because I loved going to Nordic Spa and wanted to make it as affordable as possible, I would be the guy in the chunky woolly gray robe. Everyone's in their chic white, and I would be like, I'm comfortable, it's working, and I'm happy.
People keep stealing them, and you're just like, where'd my robe go? So
yeah, that happens too. Yeah, where'd my towel go?
Where'd my towel go?
I got a quick question for you. Just given the context of all that has been discussed, especially post-pandemic now, I show up to your studio, Natasha, and I'm like, hey, I want to be a model. What are the things? How do you pass out that conversation? What is it that you say?
How do you break his heart lightly?
Well, we do use agencies, so you probably wouldn't get too far from the lobby. But you can always let me know, and I will send you some suggestions of people that would be interested.
What I read from that is that you just got to get an agent, Mark.
You need an agent. Agent will get you through the door.
Yeah, you got the goods, Mark. Don't worry. So,
one more question. So,
I know. Did I freeze or did you freeze?
Is it
I believe
easier for
your
people
video is
who are
frozen. You're back.
I froze. Okay.
Oh,
Back
can you
now.
hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it easier already for people who say you already have a huge social media following? You were talking back there a little bit about the difference between Instagram models and the actual models that you
have Instagram
industry, right? So talk a little bit about this idea. Is it something that happens where people who already have a huge following just decide that, I want to venture into modeling? And what are the dynamics? Is that a thing? Is it easier to come from that perspective than to go through the traditional route of, you know, actually building that body type, as you were saying, trying to meet industry standards, getting an agent, and coming up the ranks?
Instagram models have their own, like some of them know what's going on, some of them don't. Like if you have 300,000 followers and you didn't get them by modeling, then you're jumping off bridges or something crazy. Like you're just doing something that's like inhuman, and that's why people are following you. Those people don't really need to think of like, I want to be a model now. Like they're already doing something that like is getting attention some way or another. I think the big difference, and they're gonna have their day. They're gonna have, I don't know how long it's gonna take for people to stop caring about them or for it to just combust, because they're showing themselves in a light that they're controlling. Like, I've got my camera on mirror because I think it looks better. Like you're positioning yourself in a way that you are controlling. Whereas when you put that person in front, and this has happened quite a bit, especially when people want to put bloggers in campaigns, they get on set and they don't really know how to move, or, someone else is trying to capture their essence and they're not in control. So like, it is hard to bridge that. It is hard to you don't see a lot of Instagram models becoming real models mainly because of that. It's like when you're always in control of the angle that you're at, when someone else is doing it, sometimes it just doesn't translate. Clothes, even though like there's still this like sample size situation, most clients are sending clothes now that like will fit different body types, but still the transition between starting a modeling on Instagram and then actually becoming a real model, I think is, you've got like maybe a 40, 50, maybe a 30 chance there of that happening. But most people are also scouted on Instagram, especially right now with COVID. Like you can't just, stalk people in malls anymore. You have to stalk on TikTok, and you do have to scout that way, which has happened so much lately. Like I'll see a model on set and I'm like, oh, did modeling find you or did you find modeling? And they'll be like, oh, I got scouted on TikTok. And I'm thinking, how many times did I try that? And there were 5, 6, and they like, you couldn't do anything. So it is happening more and more. I think the people that have, the following that they have, they're making money on their own. Like why change up a good thing? Like you have a good thing going, just keep it until the world fades out of it like a Tamagotchi. But as for models getting followers, like getting followers is so hard. And it's not just, there was a time where people were buying followers and then they'd have to like reset whoever you're buying followers from, I feel like they had to like reset your account somehow. So all the people who are genuinely following you are now unfollowed, and then you feel like you're not cool. And it's this whole subliminal thing where it gets people to follow because you thought you were dropped, and it's this whole game that they play. Mm-hmm. So like, but companies now know the difference between like a fake 15,000 and like a real 20,000. But a lot of companies also don't really want, some companies want the high number. Some people want the quality number. So if you have 3,000 really engaged fans and you're having like 50 comments a day and you're getting those likes, then like that's the account that brands want versus the like 500,000 with like the 2 likes a day. Like if they're fake, you can see it. I think if you're starting modeling and you're trying to get this following, like I really don't want people out there doing things that they shouldn't be doing just to get followers. I think that's really stupid. In the long run, it's not good for anyone. It's so bad for mental health, and you are showing this world, side of you that you want to be seen. So it's definitely not always what you see. And once brands get, overpopulated, like, one girl's got, L'Oreal and Rimmel and Revlon, like you can't have a lot of cross-contamination of brands. It's not going to work long term. And it kind of waters down your credibility. So it's a weird game. I really don't know how long it's going to last. I think the models, the Instagram models that are doing it right and making their money, do it now, because at some point it will stop. It will. I really do think that people...
Well, very bluntly put. I like that. Thank you.
Natasha, I was interested in closing off this very interesting interview in which you're sharing so many of the intricacies of the fashion industry with us. asking about, what you foresee in the fashion industry, in 10 years from now. But it really seems like the obvious answer to that is that you just don't know. We're talking about changes that are dominating the industry that we couldn't have seen coming 10 years ago today. And so I'm still interested in what your expectations are, but more so looking back, I'm wondering if you could talk to 20-year-old Natasha Budovitch about the fashion industry right now, or just someone of that age thinking about getting involved in the fashion industry today, what would you say to them?
I spent a lot of time giving back to Ryerson and going in and speaking to students. And kind of the main thing that I always said, like, our industry is known for, one second, I wrote this down. I wrote it down. It's known for women being mean to other women. Like, it's known for being a catty, hostile environment. It's known for power trips. It's known for sexual assault. It's known for abuse of power. It's, it doesn't have a good reputation. So why do we have to be mean to each other? Why do we have to feed this envious, jealous, like, mean machine when it's a small world, it's a small business, and most people who think they're everything are really not. Like, unless you're Anna Wintour, like, calm down, you're nobody. And we really do have to be nicer to each other. There's no reason why we need to be that way. It's all about being nice to each other and supporting each other. I really, really stress that because, especially as a student, if you're not working very hard and people see that kid could be interning where you want to intern, and they'll just throw out your resume because it came to them first. Like, if you're nice to others, I've worked for every person that I've interned for. They've either worked for me, I've worked for them, I've worked against them, for them, or they've been my client. So, like, it's very small. Everything will come around. You will see each other and you will need each other, especially in Canada. Like, however many times I'm thinking in my head, oh, I know this girl, oh, I know this. The network is quite tight. So be nice and be yourself, because on the first day of school, when you practice this accent that you want to have, and this, if you can't keep that and sustain that image, then it'll come out eventually. So you might as well just be yourself the whole time. And I've always been that way. I've always stayed myself. I didn't want to be the red shirt girl. I made sure that, like, people knew my name and that I was always 120% my nerdy self, and that's fine. We don't need, more Lauren Conrads. We don't need more Winnie Ports. We need more real people. And it's a really tough industry. And if you're not in it for a real reason, then it's just going to chew you up and eat you and spit you out. So it's not as glamorous as everybody likes to say. It's a lot of hard work, and you just need to be yourself, be nice to each other, and work really hard. If you work really hard and you give what you put in, and people want to work around you, then you're going to get what you put into that, which I'm lucky to say that I feel like I have. I feel like I've gone into this industry in a certain way, and I'm exactly where I said I was going to be. So I feel like if you have those expectations and you're just really true to yourself, then, like, you really just can't go wrong. Whereas if you start making weird decisions and pretend to be something that you're not, then you're not going to get out of it what you need.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And I'm so happy to hear that. And it does seem so true that, yeah, your dedication to being real and working hard has brought you to a great place that we're able to learn from now. And so it's super psyched to have you on the show. The interview was even more exciting than I expected it to be. So happy to continue to be in touch with you as people that are rising in our careers and as long-running friends. And so thank you very much once again, Natasha. I encourage all of our viewers.
You're a doctor. I sell t-shirts. We're good. And that too, I want to add that too, like, we don't cure cancer. We don't fight wars. Like, this is fashion. It's fun. So, we're lucky that we get to do something that we naturally love. So it's not so serious. Stop being so serious.
Hey, well, from the job interview to celebration to any kind of case like a first date, you're trying to make a first impression or just feel good about yourself, looking in the mirror, feeling you're expressing yourself, and the mirror, fashion plays a very important role and always has in the world. And so I wouldn't underplay the importance of the work that you do.
Thanks.
All right, Chebs, you can close us off. Thanks very much, Natasha. Talk to you soon.
Damn, we gotta leave.
thank you so much, Natasha. And
Do I press leave now? Do I? What do
pardon?
I do?
Sure.
Do I press leave?
No, I think I did something there.
Do I do
What
it?
are you talking about?
We continue to be live. This is just how we played it unfiltered. All right, there goes Natasha. That was great, Chubbs?
That was great. That was a great interview. Really, I like that she was very. I mean, that's what we encourage on Unfiltered, but she was very frank and open and real about what it is. So that's really good. For those who are interested in that industry and who are watching keenly, I hope that there was a lot gleaned from that. So great job there, and thank you, Natasha. I know you jumped out before we could conclude. We'd love to have you again at some point. And next week, Wes, you take it from there. We have some other interesting guests lined up for the show in the next few weeks. So which one are you looking up for? I know you're looking up to both, to all of them, but
Yeah, so next week of Unfiltered is currently unscheduled, but on March 11th, I can let our viewers know that we will have one Lisa Cameron come on to talk about the plague of bad bosses that is a real problem in some people's daily lives, and some could say an inherent part of our economic model in Canada. Until
nice,
then.
nice. And next week we definitely have some guests. We just have to figure out who exactly is going to be coming on to talk of what. We do this sort of thing in the background, but I know our good friend Uzo was watching and leaving some comments. So we had Uzo around the Christmas period just as a feature. So maybe, who knows, if Uzo is chance. I know her Sundays are really busy until she makes the great leap over here to Cape Breton, to Nova Scotia, which she'll be doing soon. But we could have Uzo next week, or there's another couple of people that we've been talking to that want to come on the show. One of them, my very good friend who runs a foundation back in the Cameroons, empowering young people to go to school and to have mentorship, career mentorship, some of the things that we didn't have an opportunity to be exposed to when we were growing up and in high school. So he's doing that work, and we have actually partnered with him to support that work. So we could have him on, and stay tuned, folks. There's a lot of interesting folks that we're gonna have on this year, and I want to talk about a lot of interesting things. So join us, support us. Have a great Sunday.
You got me excited too now, Chubbs. All right, I'll see you again soon.
Okay. Have a good one.
You too, brother.
Goodbye.